Okay, Derbyites, welcome to our Slugfest 2015 Emmy predictions for the movie miniseries categories. We have some dissension in our ranks. I think most of us are going for Olive Kitteridge, but Ralph, are you actually going to predict something else?
I'm well after the nice showing what was it 2 nights ago at the Creative Arts for uh, American Horror Story Freak Show. I'm thinking of maybe switching it over to that, and not just because of that, but also because of the voting that we have now. I think it opens it up to a much more I think a lot more people have watched it than have watched Olive Kitteridge. And I think with the popular vote, if you're voting on it, you're going to vote for something that you've watched rather than having the option to go and watch something already. That I mean, it got a slew of nominations in the acting category, so we know that they liked it. The tech category, I believe it led again in limited series. So and it hasn't won yet. And this is the last time to reward the show with Jessica Lange in it because she's not going to be in the next versions of it. So if they're going to do it, this is the year. And even if they just watched the first 4 episodes, they were really good. So I think I may be talking myself into switching there, but for now, because Olive Kitteridge just won everything else, I may stick with it, but I'm not sure.
The only my main quarrel with that is that the idea that, and maybe you just put this on there to just elaborate, but the idea that this is the last that because this is the last chance to reward a season of it where Jessica Lange was on it, I don't think that carries much weight since she's already won twice for this show.
She could win again too. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that she could win. For the sentimentality factor, the goodbye hug factor.
If she won last year, she could definitely win this year.
Yeah. Just going back to American Horror Story, though, I think Ralph has a really good point. I can totally see it winning. I mean, with the new popular voting, we saw Game of Thrones win more awards at the Creative Arts than it ever had before, winning categories that it didn't have a chance in before because it had, subpar tapes compared to the other ones when they're actually examined like that. But American Horror Story actually beat Game of Thrones in 2 categories that Game of Thrones had won last year. Like, this is a really popular show. It won 5 awards, and I still have not been able to reconcile how Olive Kitteridge was snubbed by the Producers Guild while American Horror Story was nominated.
Well, to be fair, I mean, American Horror Story is going to win more technical Emmys than Olive Kitteridge. Because it's a much more technically challenging show than something like Olive Kitteridge. I think what will work in Olive Kitteridge's favor is the actors, for one, and the fact that it's just a very kind of typical, Emmy kind of miniseries winner. It's very classy, it's very, dramatic, and American Horror Story, let's not forget, it's a very kind of trashy, campy horror show.
Yeah, but on the game, if you're going to say that Game of Thrones is going to win drama series and it's a fantasy show and those don't do well at the Emmys, then there's no reason to knock out American Horror Story because it's a horror show.
I mean, I have it in second place. It's not as if I think that it.
Well, there's really nothing else to put in that show. I mean, it's like 1 or 2. So.
Yeah.
I do know that Olive Kitteridge won kind of the 2 most important awards at the Creative Arts. I mean, it won casting over American Horror Story, even though American Horror Story has more acting nominations. And also casting this year, they changed the voting so that people who vote on it are casting directors, producers, and directors. So that's the only place that we saw possible tip-off from the producers and directors, 2 very large branches, as to which show they preferred. And then the other category that it won was picture editing, and as a huge fan of Olive Kitteridge, that was ridiculous. Why is it winning picture editing over 24 or American Crime or anything?
The casting one should be of note because, I mean, casting Freak Show is very challenging because you have to find people with certain disabilities and disfigurements, which is a much which is a much more difficult task than, finding Richard Jenkins and Frances McDormand and Bill Murray,
I don't know. Bill Murray's hard to find sometimes.
Okay, I'll give you that.
He's under the couch. You know what's interesting? If American Horror Story Asylum was nominated, and if it just won 5, and its competition was Olive Kitteridge, I would be picking Asylum. I just think, there's maybe a fan consensus that Freak Show, while beautiful to look at, maybe wasn't as good as previous seasons. Does that matter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Oh.
I agree, but it's still the most heavily watched out of all of the series nominated, and I don't think we can count that out. I mean, on an old voting system, I think you're right. That would be something, but with the new system, when you have a lot more people that have seen the show that may vote for it because they don't feel like watching the others or they haven't watched the others, and the casting thing, I mean, I agree that that's something to look at, but it's not like they lined up 50 Ma Petites and picked which one was there. I mean, there was really only one that you could go with. So I don't think it's like that hard of a thing. And Olive Kitteridge, of course, if you get Frances McDormand and Richard Jenkins and Bill Murray and all those heavyweights into a limited series, it's almost like True Detective. You're gonna win that casting award for that.
What about these other shows, American Crime, Honorable Woman, or Wolf Hall? Are we counting them out?
Wolf Hall, I would normally say watch out for, but it's hard to tell with this new voting system. Wolf Hall would normally be the British alternative that we've seen, like when The Last Prince beat Empire Falls, or Downton Abbey beat out Mildred Pierce, or Little Dorrit being out Generation Kill. So I would normally think that would be one to watch out for, but with the new voting system and being much broader, I'm much more hesitant.
I think that Wolf Hall missed out on a couple of categories that would have indicated a lot of support. Like, it couldn't get Claire Foy in. She was their female lead competing in supporting, and it didn't get Jonathan Pryce in. Whereas Olive Kitteridge, they got their lead 2 actor, actress, and then they got their supporting actor and actress. So I think that just separates them.
So let's talk about the leads. We already kind of talked about Jessica Lange, but I think the front runners here, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be Frances McDormand or Queen Latifah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think so. Also, I think to be in the conversation should also be Maggie Gyllenhaal. She did win the Globe this year over Frances McDormand, and
yeah, that was a shock.
Yeah, that was a big shock, and the production is nominated for the limited series category, and it's also nominated for directing, and it's nominated for writing. Yeah, it's nominated for directing and writing as well. So, a win there would not be too shocking.
Ralph, you were saying something about Queen Latifah earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have Queen Latifah in first because I think what she was able to do with Bessie, waiting so many years to get this story out there, putting it all together herself, and then starring in it, and she was pretty raw in the performance, and she's on there commanding all the scenes that she's in. I think actors, if they've watched it, and it's an HBO show, that they appreciate that she had to wait a decade or longer to get this movie out there, and she never gave up on it, and that's always something that I think they would be willing to award. And I mean, Frances McDormand, she's had a lot of accolades. She never seems too thrilled when she wins. I think if Queen Latifah wins, she'd be completely over the moon for it. But like Charlie said, I don't think you can discount Maggie Gyllenhaal. She not only does she have a different accent, but she dominates that whole series that she's in, and she's outstanding in it. If I had to vote, I would definitely vote for her. But I just think Queen Latifah could actually be the more reasonable one to pull this off.
The one thing I have with that, and you bring up a lot of good points about Queen Latifah, the thing is, though, is that for those reasons, doesn't really the fact that it won the TV movie category and she won as one of the producers of it, doesn't that really take care of that?
Hmm.
Yeah, it does, but I'm not sure that that really holds any weight because you're talking about an acting category and you're talking about the film category, and I'm not sure if when you have to separate the two. I think as an overall, if you look at that category that Bessie won, what competition did it really have? It really didn't have much. I mean, everybody was expecting it to win, and it was a front runner to win. But then you go to see now you're separating Queen Latifah's performance as Bessie, and you know that she put so much into it. I think it makes it a little different, especially when you're thinking of it as an actor from an actor's perspective. I think they appreciate that more, which is why I have Tatiana Maslany in the drama category because she's giving an actor's performance that every actor would like to do, and I think Charlie had pointed this out before. When you look at the ballot and you're ranking her name, she has 5 names next to hers because she's playing all of these different characters, and I think that's something that people appreciate. The same thing with Queen Latifah having done all of this to get herself on there, and now she's got a big stage to go get an acceptance speech. I think it was too bad that Bessie was, or that series was put over to the Creative Arts Emmys because we won't get to see her speech or anything. But hopefully she pulls this one off.
The same thing can be said about Frances McDormand, though. Like, maybe she didn't wait a decade or whatever, but she was the main producer on Olive Kitteridge, who assembled the writer and the director after she got the book rights. I think that Frances McDormand should be very thankful for this new system where they're not watching episodes because in the first episode she's barely in it compared to Zoe Kazan and Richard Jenkins, but I think that she has enough popularity herself, and I think that Olive Kitteridge is more preferred than Bessie, although I don't actually have the evidence at this point, other than, I guess, the casting and editing wins, maybe.
Something else just occurred to me. Gold Derby's gotten this category wrong the past 2 years. Last year, we all thought it would be Cicely Tyson, but it was Jessica Lange. The year before, we were kind of split, Elizabeth Moss or Jessica Lange for Asylum, and it ended up being Laura Linney. So the fact that everyone's going for Frances McDormand almost wants me to pick someone else just because, for some reason, this category is very, very tough for our odds makers.
Yeah, I didn't predict Cicely Tyson last year, but I do think that we're in a new generation of the Emmys here where things that would have happened last year, they're not going to happen this year, and it'll just be a lot more boring.
Well, I'm switching to Queen Latifah. I think she also sings and dances. I don't think we brought that up. She's a triple threat in that movie.
Yeah, whereas Frances McDormand's character is just a total bitch.
Yeah, she doesn't do much, huh? She just walks around and yells at people.
And scolds people.
If only there'd been a scene where she sung and danced.
Yeah.
But scolded people.
But Marcus, I remember after Horror Story when Jessica Lange had that thing, you text me and you were like, she's winning the Emmy again.
I know.
Dancing, and she's got no legs.
Yeah, this is really tough, you guys. I don't think it's Frances McDormand like everyone else seems
I think
to
she
think.
still has an edge here, but it is much closer than a lot of people would have you believe. A lot of people would probably just have you believe it's Frances McDormand, blah blah blah. It's over. But it's a lot more complicated.
And Felicity Huffman too.
Yeah, she's pulled off an Emmy win, a big Emmy win before over several other people.
I don't know what to do.
And Emma Thompson, she's an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
And she sings in hers.
Oh, good lord. This is actually a 6-person race, isn't it? Okay, movie mini actor. I'm almost convinced that this is David Oyelowo, but I know that's probably a mistake because Richard Jenkins is so popular. Mm-hmm. But David Oyelowo just completely commands every scene. He's the only one in that movie. And he goes through, rages of anger, excitement. He just is so phenomenal. I think he's also a producer on that movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
I don't think there's any real clear front-running sweeper in this entire, in any of these categories. I think they're probably going to be divided, amongst several of the main nominees. So I don't think it's out of the question that David Oyelowo could win over Richard Jenkins, because I don't think Olive Kitteridge is going to be the kind of thing like Angels in America where they just check it off for every single category that it's nominated for.
At least I've actually seen it, though, unlike Nightingale.
That's true.
Yeah, this and the nomination for television movie where it's only nominations.
I mean, I've got Richard Jenkins at #1. I'm just saying, it's not like a question.
The Oscar snub helps too. He was the fact that he was snubbed for Selma.
It helped that they showed his face so many times in the audience during the Oscar telecast too, so people got to know who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think those two, Richard Jenkins, who I've adored as I think he's just one of the greatest actors we have working right now. You can also not count out Mark Rylance is also a real actor's actor. He's someone who's won in just the past 7 years. He's won 3 Tony Awards, which is no easy feat. He's doing this British period drama that takes place during the reign of Henry VIII, and I think he's someone to watch out for. Another one, Ricky Gervais. I don't think you can ever count Ricky Gervais out. The only two that I actually kind of feel really don't have that much of a shot are, ironically, the 2 Oscar winners in this, Timothy Hutton and Adrian Brody.
I watched the Derek special because I thought that maybe under the old tape system, Ricky Gervais could have pulled a Laura Linney where he competed in a comedy category, lost, but then since his show is so dramatic that he'd be able to pull it off in the movie mini categories, but there's not much there. He actually had much better submissions in the first 2 seasons of the actual show.
I just want to see him give a speech. He's always so lively at that podium. That would be.
Well, they'll have him present, so even if he doesn't win, he'll still be lively.
Mm-hmm. I want him to present after he loses, because then we'll get raw Ricky come out with a beer or something.
And also probably out of all of these guys that are nominated, Derek is the most accessible because it's on Netflix and they can just go watch it whenever they want. They don't have to log in or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you got to log into your Netflix account.
It's already logged in if you have an Apple TV.
I have the wrong TV.
So that's lead actor. What about supporting actor? Who's not predicting Bill Murray? Okay, Charlie, who are you predicting?
Right now, for some reason I have Damian Lewis in there. Not as an educated guess, but I just have issues. I love Bill Murray, but I have a lot of issues with picking him to win this since he's barely in the damn series. He's briefly split second in the 3rd part, and then he's in about half of the 4th part. Oh God, I have no idea what to make of this category. There's no clear-cut frontrunner to me. A lot of these categories, I could see, some of these people in American Crime being, possible threats here, like Richard Cabral, Dennis O'Hare, Finn Wittrock, possibly. I really have no clue what to make. I just don't think Bill Murray has much of a shot. But then again, what the hell do I know?
No, I'm with you. Since I watched Olive Kitteridge, I couldn't believe he was not just #1, but #1 by a landslide.
Well, remember, he was #1 by a landslide for a lot of people for the Globes, too.
Yeah. I have him in second.
It's his name recognition is what that is. I mean, he's obviously a very popular, maybe not a very likable person in Hollywood, but a very well-known person in Hollywood. So, I mean, of course he's going to be the front runner just because of his name recognition alone.
And a veteran actor always wins this race, which is why I'm going with Dennis O'Hare, who is more of a TV star. And we saw last year Bryan Cranston beat McConaughey, TV star beats movie star. And, the freak show Love Fest from last Saturday, I think it will continue with some of these acting categories. So I'm going with Dennis O'Hare. Maybe I'm crazy, but who knows?
That's interesting. I mean, we talked about how Bill Murray doesn't, show up until later in the miniseries, but that's kind of the case with all of these people I found. Like, nobody was really front and center right at the beginning. Damian Lewis doesn't appear until the end of the first hour. Dennis O'Hare missed the first couple episodes. Finn Wittrock doesn't get his material until much later in the series. I think
but he's in it. He's in it from the beginning, though.
Yeah, but like, would you vote for an Emmy based on what he does early on? Like, I'm just thinking
I'm just pointing out that he's in it.
Okay.
Well, and in this category, don't you submit an episode now? I mean,
Yeah,
if you want it, you
But they're
submit
not
it.
going to watch them, are they?
But like now, if they submit an episode, then they'll see Bill Murray, right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that nobody
I
really
don't know, maybe
has.
it's just my residual. It's probably just my residual hate for Olive Kitteridge. that's preventing me from picking it.
Hey, hate's a strong word, Charlie.
No, with this, it's deserved.
Oh my god.
This
Okay.
and people who don't have the same skin tone as me.
Ralph.
Ralph.
I've saved the best category for last, the Sarah Paulson category. Does anyone think Monique could upset, and why?
No, but I think Kathy Bates can upset. I thought this was Sarah Paulson all the way until the creative arts, and then, we saw how lazy some of those winners were. And like Sarah Paulson struggled even under the old tape system where she, voters presumably watched the first episode of the miniseries that were submitted. And she was in asylum, yelling. And then she lost to Ellen Burstyn, showing up, for 30 seconds at a time, spewing off pretty lame one-liners and political animals. So she couldn't win under the tape system, and under like a name recognition system, is she going to beat Kathy Bates? I'm not sure about that either.
It's another veteran category where she might be just too young. This is the one time in Hollywood where you don't want to be young is winning an Emmy Award for supporting.
I think
limited
someone who
series race.
also should be in the conversation here, and this is probably just my personal bias, but I thought Regina King was just magnificent in American Crime. She was the standout for me in that, and I think she is someone to watch. Plus, if for some reason enough of the actors remember how great she was on Southland, then yeah, maybe that. And she is also a veteran. She's been working in the industry for decades, and now she's getting this. She's finally getting this recognition for this, and I would love to see her win. And I do think she has a legitimate shot at this.
Yeah, I agree. I have her in second.
I as well. Yeah.
I think what helps Sarah Paulson is that it appears that voters have actually watched American Horror Story Freak Show. And, if they have, then why would they vote for anybody else?
And also, by now she is more established. You know who she is. She's been in a Best Picture winner. This was not the case when she was nominated for Asylum, or even when she was nominated for
Game Change.
Game Change, yeah.
Yeah, and she was basically a lead. There were discussions. Should she go lead? Should she go supporting? She went supporting. And she plays two characters.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she's essentially a lead actress playing two characters who are very, very different from each other.
Yeah.
She sings in her tape, right?
No, I don't think so. She submitted episode 9.
Okay.
I don't think
She sang early on in the season.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Zach?
I was just saying, that the role that she has in Freak Show, it's both a technical marvel, but she has to create these two very different characters, and on the same body. So it's not as if she can do it through tricks of like clothing and makeup. She has to do it through her acting ability.
Mm-hmm.
So voters could respond to that. They could also at the same time though just think of it as a special effect.
Right.
But I'm predicting her. Monique.
God, she better win. God, she better win.
I would vote for Zoe Kazan.
You have such this love fest for Olive Kitteridge that I don't quite understand.
That could happen.
Riley likes things that are dark and depressing and make you want to OD on a bunch of OxyContin.
So there we go. That's our slugfest. We made it as lively as possible. Yeah, go ahead and name yours. I have Olive Kitteridge winning writing and directing.
Ditto.
I think it could have lost to The Honorable Woman under that old system where British shows would win every year and you'd never see it coming. But I think that it's just.
Well, that's why I have Wolf Hall in second in writing and directing, actually. So, because those writers, they do love their British shit.
It's like voting for Shakespeare, right?
Yeah. It's all the same.
Does anybody have Hello Ladies the movie winning writing?
No.
I forgot
did
that was
watch it.
nominated.
Yeah. Okay. Is that
So
it?
yeah.
There you go. Movie mini. We talked more about them than anyone else on the web and on the entire internet. So you're welcome, movie mini fans. Keep coming back to Gold Derby. We may have more Slugfest leading up to the Emmys. We may not. We've already done like 20 or something Slugfest. So go to our YouTube channel and just search Slugfest, and you'll see way too many of them.
Or festivals of slugs.